Welcome back to HPL. Game 5 is about to get underway with ErA and Zalae. ErA has queued up 4 control decks in a row, while Zalae has played Grim Patron more than his fair share at this point. But is he going to play it again this match, or I'm sorry, this game, or is he going to find a way to target the fact that ErA has been playing these control strategies, and then, you know, kind of going forward, is ErA going to finally mix it up a bit, or is he going to continue to play control?
I got to believe that ErA is going to queue up control again. He's been playing them great, wonderfully, and beautifully, and I got to believe that Grim Patron Warrior is going to be the deck that he chooses not to play, because ErA has demonstrated that he's been able to beat it over and over again and understands how to beat it in these matchups. So it's going to be interesting to see if Zalae thinks the same.
Yeah, anything can happen here in HPL. Again, these players allowed to play anything they want in these formats. There are no restrictions on them. But guys, Game 5 is ready. Get hyped. Get out there on Twitter. Use that hashtag HPL. Let everyone know who you think is taking this 5th and deciding game between Zalae and ErA.
And here is the curveball. ErA coming out with a Tempo Mage deck and Zalae with Druid, and he has a Wild Growth in his opening hand. You know what, Nathan? I'm so glad they're in Game 5. I feel that's the only way this match could have ended.
Unbelievable turn of events here from ErA, finally choosing to play a control deck. And Zalae, you know, I don't think he's happy to see this turn 1 clock written out.
He definitely wasn't expecting that since he queued up Druid again. You saw him queue up Druid earlier in the match and win beautifully with it. It had a great matchup. You saw him just blow him out on turns 6, 7, and 8 later in the game, but that's not going to happen here from ErA. ErA with a pretty solid start.
Yeah, Druid of the Claw has the potential to come out here pretty early, though. Maybe stifle some of this action. Innervate is going to open him up. I mean, maybe even something as crazy as like a Force Nature here. But when your opponent plays Clockwork Gnome and then they play Mad Scientist, something like Mirror Entity is always going to be on your mind. So how does he tackle that situation right now?
Yeah, this is not something you want to see when you're playing a Druid deck. It's a deck that has a capability of putting Mirror Entity in play at will.
Yeah, second Innervate, he's going to float a point of mana here. He's not concerned with that. He wants to get this Ancient Lore on the board, find some more options, and then make his push forward afterwards.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he has cards like Zombie Chow in his deck, because that card is very important in this matchup, not only trading early with minions, but proccing those Mirror Entities late in the game.
Yep, so here comes an Arcane Missile. I mean, this is a little bit of the fate that ErA wants to have on his side. 3 goes to the Dome, and that might be dictating exactly where he sends the rest of these minions. Nope, he's going to choose to trade up straight away, keep that Ancient of Lore in check.
Oh, he's going to maybe slow down a little bit here.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that could very easily slow things down here for him, but you know, when you have Archmage Antonidas in your hand, I mean, sometimes you really want to save these spare parts to pick up those fireballs.
It's an interesting flex point here, too, because he has the other Mirror in his hand, and I know he doesn't want to play it this turn since he has a Mad Scientist in play. So, yeah, you're going to see him really take his time to think about it here, but he might still play this Mirror Entity off this coin.
Yep, so now this is a spot where he doesn't have he hasn't utilized Mirror Entity basically at all of this match, and this is giving Zalae free reign to play to his curve.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get a Druid with Call in play. I got to believe he's going to probably taunt up here. I mean, people don't charge enough for this minion, but this looks like a pretty good spot to have a taunt minion as long as there isn't a Fireball sitting in ErA's hand. Or he has a couple other options, too. He could do some stuff with Wrath, but that doesn't seem as good as just, you know, using all 5 of your mana this turn.
I mean, he just picked up Keeper of the Grove, too, so he could really go either direction in this game right now. I mean, this is such an important turn. We've talked throughout this today's matches that players find ways to disrupt their opponent's mana and dictate the way that they're going to play the game. ErA had an opportunity to do that this turn, and he didn't do it. And I'm curious now if that's going to end up being a punishing effect or if it's going to go right for Zalae. Because if Zalae chooses to taunt this Druid of the Claw, ErA does not have a Fireball in his hand. It's going to stick to the board.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if it comes back to bite ErA or not. It's going to be a pretty dicey spot here from Zalae over the next couple turns, but that was a pretty good draw. He gets to play on curve with his mechanical yet if he wants and save this coin for Archmage Antonidas later.
Well, once again, the problem with that, though, is that he's not utilizing the Mad Scientist from this. He's getting some damage out of it, but the really big part of that card in this matchup is how you disrupt your opponent's curve with it. So now he's seen Keeper of the Grove, he's seen Ancient Allure. Zalae's about to go into a 6-mana turn. If something like Sylvanas, if something like Emperor Thaurissan, even if something like Druid of the Claw comes down after that, it could still spell trouble for him. So, I mean, he could still very easily look to push with the Mad Scientist just to get the secret out of his deck. But at the same time, like you said, he's on curve, so he wants to play this Mechanical Yeti. The fact that he chose his play line last turn is dictating how he has to play it for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's a really rough spot for him. I think he just it's just such a rough spot there to whether you want to use all of your mana there to Mechanical Yeti, or if you want to run your guy into there, use your hero power to kill the Ancient of Lore and then get a secret. It's such a rough spot for ErA. He went with the minion.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other things to account for. You mentioned Zombie Chow. I think that's a minion that Zalae is very capable of holding on to in a match like this to counteract those mirror entities. But then even something as simple as like Big Game Hunter or another Keeper of the Grove can offset mirror entity pretty well too. So in a spot like this now, this is another really important turn from Zalae here. ErA has decided to push for damage, so he sent Zalae a kind of a clear message here. But he has Force Nature Savage Roar in his hand, so is this a spot where he wants to favor trading and keeping the board under control, or start making his push for damage and try to get ErA to that dangerous 14 life point?
I think
that's
we're
a
pushing
charge.
for damage.
It's Zalae showing you exactly why he's such a dangerous player. He will push for aggression at any time he has a window of opportunity for it. And now ErA really on a back foot in this game.
Yeah, but he has Loatheb to make sure that he doesn't get comboed out this turn, which is very, very fortunate for ErA here.
He's seen both innervates at this point too. So with this kind of board presence, he's worried strictly just about Savage Roar.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sorry, just the Savage Roar. But I mean, the way Zalae played pretty much just put his hand face up at the table. You have to believe that he has it. But we talked about this earlier. He could also be running some sort of bluff here to make his opponent start to trade off and play defensively.
That's something he very much likes to do, is put your opponents to the test and try to make them play their game differently.
Yeah, and you can see Zalae does not have a lot of great options this turn since that Loatheb has got him under lock.
Yeah, plus he's got the mirror entity out as well. I mean, he only got one minion to play, so this is, you know, kind of, it's a little bit of a blessing in this effect, but then at the same time, it's a matter of whether or not he needs to push for damage this turn. He's got 6 on the board, so he can set Zalae, he can select ErA down to 15 at that point. And then he's got a hero power up. Is he going to push that hero power into the Clockwork Gnome? Is he going to push it into face and wait for later on? There is a couple different ways he can still go in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what Zalae does this turn. It's going to spell the rest of the game. This is the pivotal turn for Zalae and ErA. Whatever Zalae does here is going to map out how this game ends.
He's going to go for Big Game Hunter here. That's going to trigger that mirror entity, and now this is a big moment. Is he going to push for more damage here with this Keeper of the Grove, or is he going to trade?
Yeah, I think he's just going to eat here and eat this 2 under his hero power and then push for 4.
Feeling comfortable still, but I mean, this is now a spot where ErA maybe has a point of recovery. His hand won't do it, so this draw is paramount now for ErA.
Yeah, and this Whirling Blades is actually going to do some work here. And oh, that was a pretty decent draw.
Anything that was going to answer the board this turn was a very good draw, I think, for ErA. He also didn't see something like Ancient Allure come out on turn 7. He didn't see any effective minions, so if Zalae has those in his hand, he's not going to be able to utilize until next turn. So that's another thing he has to think about. Does he want to continue to throw his opponent's mana off with something like Mirror Entity, or is he going to play this as a slower game? When you're at 17 and you're moving closer to that 9 mana turn, I have to believe he's going to play defensively.
Yeah, you just have to play defensively here. It's not something you really want to do, but it's something he probably feels he has to do here, just because, as we said, you have to believe that he has pieces of the combo the way he played the turn 4. We know that he actually has both pieces of the combo here.
Oh, Ancient of Lore gets picked up. That is directly checked by the fact that ErA has a 5-2 in play right now, so 1 mana off of being able to use Wrath very efficiently in a scenario like this. If he chooses to use Wrath, he's not going to be able to play Ancient of Lore, but if he plays Ancient of Lore, it's already checked by what's on the board.
Yeah, so it depends on whether he wants to just play this Ancient of Lore, draw cards this turn, and that be his only play, or if he wants to Wrath this Loatheb, but then he doesn't have a whole lot of great options after that as well. So I have to believe he's going to go with the Ancient of Lore play here. Just play for a longer game. Your opponent only has 3 cards in their hand, and if they don't have something like Boom or Antonidas next turn, you've got to feel like you're got to be a pretty big favorite the next couple turns.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say so as well. This is another possibility here. The Wrath has potential to draw a card, and he's just saw Fireball. Yeah, he just saw Fireball come in to his minion too, so I have to believe that he thinks ErA doesn't have the range to blast him out of the game right now. So I think, you know, either way this can go, he's going to feel comfortable either taking the blowback, but now he's drawn this Emperor and he has to reevaluate his whole turn.
Yeah, that was one of the only draws in his deck that could make him really think about reevaluating this turn.
Just going to choose to use his life total down to 16, but again, ErA, no pressure here. So now this is another big turn for ErA. He can play. Oh, well.
That was a great draw.
He's still going to go with the Archmage Antonidas, though, and I like this play.
I do as well.
What this setting here is that Zalae has to answer this board. So if he has something like Force Nature and Savage Roar, it's paramount that he uses that to take out this Archmage Antonidas. Can he afford to take the risk? And since he drew that second Savage Roar, it might be the case, but any if ErA's got something like another Fireball in his hand, he's dead to that Archmage Antonidas. That's 12 damage plus 5 more from the Archmage. And that's the risk he's going to take. There's only one Fireball left in ErA's deck, and he's looking for Force of Nature and 2 Savage Roars next turn. ErA is on the back foot now. He has to find a way to deal with his board position.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what ErA draws here, but this is a huge draw step. This is game-changing right here. This is going to decide the match. This is game 5, guys. This is game point. This is going to decide the match. And, ooh, Frostbolt is a pretty good one.
5, 8, 9 plus 6 more. That's not enough. That's only 15 damage. Zalae at just enough life to make sure that he lives past that. And I don't know if is Frostbolt enough to keep him alive this turn. This is 3 tokens that have 6 power. That's not enough.
Yeah, he's going to die to the Savage Roar combo here because he's got 2 pieces of it. So he's going to be able to kill him through this Frostbolt here. This is, oh man, this game.
I don't think
this match, jeez.
Outside of something like a counter spell being drawn off an Azure Drake, I don't think there's any way ErA can win this game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't know the full composition of his deck, but yeah, ErA is going to go through all the permutations here, figure out if there's any way for him to live through this, but God, this is just such a hard spot to be in.
Trying to figure out the perfect sequence of plays. And that, I mean, that's not enough. He doesn't have enough mana to live through this in any way. Zalae has more than enough damage in his hand to end this one, and he is going to take this best of 5, 3 games to 2 over ErA.
What a match. What a way to end it. And you know what? You're playing Druid. Is there any other way to win it? This has to be the most poetic way. You're going to see Savage Roar with Force of Nature and another Savage Roar.
Look at that. Emperor Thaurissan unlocking all kinds of potential. Despite the fact that he's frozen, it's 18 points of damage that's coming in from Zalae. This really showing you exactly why he plays these aggressive styles, is when he puts his opponents in these uncomfortable positions, he's going to have the reach to try to finish you off. So despite the fact that we saw in 2 games, ErA was able to keep Zalae under control, it wasn't enough for this best of 5 series.
And Zalae is the winner 3-2 with quite the game there at the end. You know what, that Emperor Thaurissan, he took that risk, he played it that turn, gained a ton of mana and tempo. You know what, it was enough to get him through. The second Savage Roar was drawn, and it got him the win.
The big turn that game was how Zalae chose to play with that Druid of the Claw. He chose to charge it at Zalae and put him in a difficult position. We saw that continue to progress as the game went on. That Emperor Thaurissan draw, just like you said, gave him the mana to utilize Force of Nature and 2 Savage Roars. His innervates were gone out of the deck, so he needed that Emperor Thaurissan. The fact that he drew it and coupled with that mid-game aggression is why Zalae was able to take this game.
Yeah, I just love the way Zalae played this game. He played aggressive when he needed to. He took a risk when he needed to, and you know what? It got him the W.
When we come back, guys, we're going to have an interview with Zalae, see exactly why he chose these strategies and how he chose to play them. You can also check it out on pvplive.net. Updates, recaps, replay stats, everything from this match where you can see what's happening. When we come back, interview with Zalae. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.